Adam Breneman,
How
what's
we
up,
doing?
man? We made it happen.
We finally did it
Yeah,
after about how many cancellations?
just saying that. I
You're
think
not going to hold it against me,
back
right?
in April.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was it April?
it was April. Yeah.
I blame Noah Stauffer
Okay.
for his scheduling.
Noah
Yeah, we blame Noah.
for the moves in the schedule. So well, we made it happen, man. This is the first one I'm doing in person of the podcast.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
first in person.
I didn't even tell you that
It's
yet.
much more fun in person.
It is. Yeah.
The virtual thing, you get a little like there's just something about body language and being able to sit beside someone and just kind of open up a little more. I found like I've done some coaches interviews on virtually, never that good.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. It's way different when you're like, you're right beside them.
Do you remember your first in-person interview?
My first in person was Kenny Pickett. You know Kenny Pickett?
Yeah, Kenny Pickett.
Now Philadelphia Eagle quarterback.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, it was during his draft process. I was thinking about starting a podcast. Wasn't sure what I was going to do. It was when I left coaching, and I was like, I think I could get some good guests on this podcast if I did it. This was probably 2 years ago, and texted Kenny when he was coming out of college and was projected to be the first quarterback picked. He ended up being the first quarterback picked in first round draft pick, and I texted him and was like, "Hey, would you do a podcast if I started it?" And he was like, "I'll do whatever you want." And
Yeah.
right during that draft process, we did an interview at his training apartment in Pittsburgh.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I remember you talking about how you were just like thankful for him to do that, right?
Yeah.
When you didn't have anything
Yeah.
established yet. You're like, yeah, dude, I just appreciate you coming on and
Yeah,
helping me get this thing going.
yeah, he was great, man. There were a lot of guys in the beginning there that kind of came on the show when I hadn't done it yet.
Yeah.
Those relationships were great. Will Levis came on when he was kind of a big quarterback in the draft. A lot of relationships from when I played. And that's what I think the best part about playing football and like playing sports. Those relationships you keep the rest of your life, even if you don't talk to someone for 3 years, you kind of can go right. If you were teammates in the locker room together, like you have that bond no matter what.
100%, dude. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the stuff that matters, right? The relationships, especially with what you're doing now, going out and interviewing coaches, and the relationship aspect of it is so important.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think when it comes to the coaches, especially, and anyone in the podcast space that you're trying to get on, that is typically hard to get to do podcasts. Like anyone that has a kind of a following,
Like you.
or
Yeah.
anyone that has a following, or as a coach or someone who traditionally doesn't like that kind of stuff, like they're tough to get on. It takes some kind of relationship to get them to do it.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I think has it's really given me some credibility in the college football space quickly, has been, yes, my background, but really when I'm on camera seen beside Lincoln Riley for an hour conversation, head coach of USC, or when I'm with Kalen DeBoer, the head coach of Alabama, or all the Jed Fish, head coach at Washington, James Franklin at Penn State, when I'm sitting down with those guys and you're associated with them and you're getting them, everyone knows in college football, those coaches don't like doing media, right? So like very rarely are they doing it voluntarily. And when they see that they are on my show and on my content, it gives you really unique credibility in the space, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it sure does. So speaking of your background, one thing I wanted to open up with a little bit was the fact that you've been in the public spotlight for like probably 14 years now, if not more than that. Like
Probably. That's a good point.
14, 15 years.
Yeah.
What's that been like?
Yeah. Great question. I never really thought of it like that. I've gone through like ebbs and flows of spotlight, less spotlight, more spotlight.
Yeah.
I'll say when I really got into the public spotlight when I was younger was when I was in high school getting recruited to play college football. I was a hometown kid in Harrisburg, PA, who was a 5-star recruit who went to Penn State. Right. So that the magnitude of that was big at the time. At the same time, was in the middle of the Penn State scandal, the Sandusky scandal at Penn State. So all the eyes of the nation were on who's going to Penn State, what's happening at Penn State. Everyone was talking about it. So being 16, 17 years old and going through that, I had a lot of growing up to do and learning how to deal with the media and handle myself. I think the one thing I've learned through that time, and now I think I'm a little bit more evolved than I was back then, is just, man, I remember when I was young, really paying attention to what people said about me.
I've heard you say that.
Yeah. Like I was very, very aware of what everyone said. I would, I remember like even my parents, and they did a phenomenal job. But I remember like my mom pulling out like every newspaper clip that I was in, right? Like saving it, scrapbooking it, putting a lot of emphasis and, I think at the time, a lot of my self-worth came from what outside people were saying about me. And if you listen to any of my stuff, I've said this before. Like I think one of the hard parts about that was it was really fun when it was really good, right? It was,
Yep.
and I was like, this is what I want forever. I loved the newspaper, loved doing feature stories on me. I loved all the hype in the press, but when it's really good and you allow it to affect you, as soon as it gets bad, it affects you way more than it should. And when I was going through adversity early in my football career, and the press started to be bad, and people started to say, is Adam going to make it? Is he going to be good? Is he a bust? All that stuff. Like hearing people say that really affected me. And back to the self-worth, like made me feel like affected my self-confidence and affected how I felt about myself. And I've learned since then that I think the best thing is it's easier said than done, but it's just to block it all out. And to try not to, if you listen when it's really good, then you also listen when it's really bad. So you got to just not listen to any of it.
Yeah.
And just try to stay away and realize that it's all superficial. No one really knows the truth. And just try to like kind of keep your head down and work.
That's such a good point. So, and that was probably right when social media was becoming more of a thing, right? Because we're the same age. We're 20, 29?
29,
okay.
Yeah. What are you, 29?
29.
Yeah.
Yeah. March 23rd.
Tough age. March 31st.
Yeah. Okay.
Team Aries.
There you go. Yeah.
Are you an Aries? Is that there's a cutoff? You don't even know
I have no idea.
You don't even know the zodiac sign?
No,
yeah. It's embarrassing. I can't believe I just submitted on podcast.
I think so. Yeah.
I pay attention to that shit.
Yeah. So, but that was like right when social media came out. And I remember, Twitter, probably not Instagram, maybe a little bit later, but like being on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I don't know. If I went back and looked at some of my tweets, I'd be like, what are you talking about? But for you being at Penn State at that time, like having a public commitment, the goal was to bring Penn State, or I guess keep it at the level that it always had been.
Yeah.
And then there's probably tons of fans coming at you. Yeah.
Dude, I remember
time.
After some games at Penn State, actually like taking my phone out and sitting in the locker room and searching my name on Twitter and being like, Adam Breneman on Twitter after a game, because I wanted to see what the fans were saying about me, especially if I didn't play well. It was like, how bad is it out there with the chatter online? And I remember actually like searching it and making jokes about it with some of my friends, like Mike Kosicki, plays NFL still, was one of my close friends. We lived together. I remember searching our names together on Twitter and like reading some good, but mostly negative things, because I was going through some adversity there, and like laughing it off. Like, someone said, people would tweet. I remember the funniest tweet I ever got was, there were ones that like, Adam's made of glass, like I was heard all the time. And it was someone tweeted one time, it was like, there was a strong gust of wind at practice. Adam Breneman will be out 8 weeks. and like,
that's actually pretty good.
I remember laughing it off, but again, at the time, I think I put a lot of because of all the positive attention I got, and that I paid attention to it so much, I put a lot of my self-confidence into what other people were saying about me, and it was tough.
Yeah. So I've heard you talk a lot about that injury. And I guess that's kind of jumping ahead too, because you had a successful freshman year at Penn State.
Yeah.
I remember that the clip of Hackenberg against Wisconsin rolls out to the right, hits you over the middle, and then you go to the house.
Yeah.
So like
Hack makes so many jokes about that, because Hack claims that he threw the ball so hard that I like stumbled into the end zone. And yeah, it's there are a lot of like
you put that throw right on the money.
Right on the money.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that Wisconsin throw, best play of my career. Big, the last decade plus of Penn State was a pretty, monumental play in Penn State. Just the last recent years of Penn State, because of the time that was that, we were in this sanction era, and also we were huge underdogs and ended up winning that game, and that play kind of kicked it off. Well, we run that play in practice like 50 times. That is a base play we run on offense at Penn State.
Yeah.
I never got them the ball on that on that play in practice. Never got thrown. It always went to it always went to Allen Robinson on the outside,
Okay.
or it went to the other tight end on the flat. Never, because I'm the third read. Like Christian has to go all the way to the right, back to the first tight end, then all the way to read number 3, which is me across the field. And you just never get there because you're rolling out, you don't have time, and I never got the ball. Well, for some reason they didn't cover me.
Yeah.
And yeah,
it looks like you were the first read though in that.
I think what happened is they left me uncovered. So Christian just good awareness and reacted and saw me uncovered.
Yeah.
It was just funny because I never caught the ball on that, and I didn't think I was going to get the ball.
Yeah.
And Bill O'Brien was telling a story where he said on that play, he remembers someone, he called the play, and one of the coaches on the headset was like, Bill, like, you sure you want to call that play? And he was like, Bill O'Brien was like, I was like really second guessing the call right before the snap. I was like, damn, I called the wrong play. And then I guess like the play happened, and Bill O'Brien was like, and I was like, that's why I called the damn play. That's why I called it.
Yeah. Run that again.
Run it back. Yeah.
That's funny, man. Yeah. So successful freshman year. And then do you remember, was it like one instance that, was it your knee at your sophomore year? What happened?
The journey of the knee injury that ended my career was I had just had a big freshman season at Penn State, but that last game, Wisconsin game, where I had the huge game, I fell on my left knee in the game. My left knee fell on it. It kind of swelled up, didn't know what was wrong with it, right? Well, I see a doctor a couple weeks later because my knee's still bothering me a little bit, but like no major injury. It's like it's fine, but just hurting a little bit. I see a doctor, and a doctor looks at my knee and says, Adam chipped a piece of cartilage in his knee, but it's very minor. He should be okay, but long-term, this could be an issue because this is like, you don't want to have cartilage missing in your knee. It's not good. But I was damaged some cartilage in my left knee.
Okay.
Well, went on to training camp that year. Knee kept swelling up again and again. I couldn't run. I got an MRI. They were like, listen, Adams needs surgery on this to fix the cartilage in my knee. Not a good injury, like, and not something you want when you're a sophomore in college. I mean, it's the same injury that Greg Oden had when he couldn't play.
Yeah.
So had surgery, came back from surgery, still wasn't healed completely. Ended up missing 2 seasons at Penn State. That was when I missed my sophomore and my junior year. Didn't play, and then when I was trying to kind of make my final comeback, like my last shot, I'm like, all right, it's been 2 years since my surgery. I feel better. I was like, I got to leave Penn State. I need to go. Mike Gesicki was there. I didn't have the capacity to like battle it out in practice every day because of my knee. And I didn't have like, I think I also just needed a break from Penn State. I needed to get somewhere else. I needed to stop listening to all the noise. And that's when I transferred to UMass. Now, again, that knee, while it was healthy for 2 years at UMass, and I felt pretty good, that knee was still giving me issues the whole time. And ultimately, when I went to the Senior Bowl and when I was getting ready to go to the NFL, that knee got much worse that final year at UMass, and was seeing a bunch of doctors and did a bunch of physicals, and that knee was deteriorated pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's when I retired officially from football after my time at UMass.
Yeah. What would your days be like at that time? Just in terms of, because I'm sure waking up, it's probably one of the first things on your mind, right? You're like, all right, how am I going to get through practice, get through this, and then get back on the field? You're doing a lot of rehab.
That final year at UMass was very much all about how do I prolong my knee health. I mean, I was taking, if you saw the supplement cabinet I had, I looked like an 80-year-old man taking pills. I was down in like all these different pills that's supposed to help your knee. I wasn't practicing really. That was the nice thing about being at UMass and being a guy who had kind of established himself, is I didn't have to practice. Like I would do walkthroughs, and like there was no benefit of me running out there and like taking 20 reps in practice. So I would kind of do walkthroughs, take some reps, but not practice all that much, and just try to make sure my knee was healthy. My final year at UMass, I became familiar with a very popular drug called Toradol, which is very popular in the NFL. Totally legal, but okay. I said that like it was like an illegal drug. Completely legal. I'm not even sure if it's classified as a drug. Whatever it is basically a very strong anti-inflammatory. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
That's very popular in the NFL and in contact sports.
Definitely legal.
Well, yeah, it's allowed. I think what they do, like every game, right about 30 minutes to kick off. So you warm up on the field, then come back in the locker room before the game, right? And then you go out and play the game. Well, when we came back in the locker room, every single game, our team doctor would come grab me and he'd say, Adam, you ready? And I'm like, I'm ready. He'd take me over to the side. I'd pull my right butt cheek out of my pants, and he'd stick a massive needle right in my butt cheek, and he would shoot me up with
God.
Toradol
Yeah.
every game. And then he'd give me a shot. They do it in your butt because it's the most fat, so it doesn't hurt,
Yeah.
right? It's a big needle. And he'd shoot me up with Toradol, and then my knee would feel good for the next 5 hours. And what Toradol does, and why it's not super good for you, is it makes you feel good for the first 5 hours, but it delays your body's response to pain, like delays inflammation and stuff. So it's not like it prevents it from happening. It just delays your body responding to it. So then what happens in 5 hours is it all hits you at once,
Oh my
right?
God.
So I would
playing a game
so
or
I,
something.
yeah, so I would then, like, by the time I had game was over, had dinner with my family, got back to my place, everyone's ready to go out for the night, and I'm like, I feel like I just got hit by a train. But I got in that cycle of, like, to be able to play, I needed Toradol. Certainly not good for you, but it's a controversial thing. Again, a lot of guys in the NFL do it. They've tried to ban it in the NFL, but it's what keeps a lot of guys, especially veterans, going in the NFL. But I was definitely, everyone would make fun of me because they would be like, Adam's getting the needle in his butt again, in the
like
locker
a
room.
horse getting ready for the
Exactly.
Kentucky Derby.
Horse tranquilizer.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Can you give? So I've heard you talk a lot about just like the experience at Penn State and then the experience at UMass, but like the preparation that goes into a Saturday game for a Penn State football player.
Yeah.
Can you just like give a behind the scenes look at that and just the week, like as a student athlete?
Yeah.
I guess these days.
Great question. So, a week as a college football player would be game Saturday, right? So you're off after the game. You normally have one off day in the week, and for some programs are off Sunday, some are off Monday. Let's say for this case, like where most places we were off on Mondays. So we would come in on Sunday, day after the game, watch the film of the game, have corrections where, like, the coaches have now graded the film and have, hey, these are the 40 mistakes we made in the game. We have to correct these. You'll have like 2 hours of meeting time. And then on that Sunday, you'll go out and you'll practice, normally a walkthrough, and you will correct the mistakes from the last game. So you'll actually rerun through the plays that you messed up in the last game to correct the things you messed up.
Really?
And then they'll actually begin implementing the game plan for the next week on that Sunday. And then on that Sunday as well, you normally lift or do like some light lift and run to kind of like get the lactic acid out. So we do like gassers, 10 gassers as a team. Sunday's over, get dinner with your team, you're done. Off Monday all day. So Monday's a class day. Going to, you got your all day classes on Monday in college. Tuesday, we used to call them like Bloody Tuesdays and like, Warrior Wednesdays. Like Tuesday and Wednesday are like your physical days of practice in the week. Tuesday is long practice in pads usually, and you're implementing the game plan for that week. And normally you break up game planning by Tuesday will be what's called base downs in football. Base downs are think of downs where like it's a pretty simple down and distance. It's not like 3rd and long. You're not on the goal line. It's just like 1st and 10.
Yeah.
And you're implementing plays for 1st and 10, or you're implementing plays for 2nd down and 7, like just basic plays. 2nd down is 5, like just basic down distance of football. You're putting in your game plan for those base down plays. And you're repping all those out, and you'll meet for 2 hours before practice, and then be at practice for 2 hours, and you're done. And then Wednesday, you're now putting in a game plan for 3rd down and red zone. So like on any 3rd down play, because you'll have like 3 new plays for 3rd and 3, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 10, and then you have new plays for the red zone. Like coaches are putting in new plays each week based on what they saw in film. So Wednesdays is 3rd down red zone. Then Thursday will be, basically like let's get it perfect Thursday. It's a shorter practice.
Mm-hmm.
You're now repping all the things you put in Tuesday and Wednesday and just making sure that it's like perfect. The game plan, everyone feels good. Meetings are big that day. You're kind of like going through everything. Thursday practice ends. You're kind of now getting ready to, like the work for the week is done. Friday, you'll do a walkthrough, and on Friday night, you'll watch film with the entire team before the game. So you'll like the head coach will probably talk through things and give a pep talk. Your offensive coordinator will show all 50 plays you're going to run that week, all 100 plays. He will show the film of, talk through every single one. Normally like on Fridays, the day before game day, we would actually go through every single play on the play call sheet. The quarterback would get up and like say the play. He'd be like, Twins right, Y off 72, Y counter X post. Like he would, like the quarterback would say it, and then we'd either walk through it or the coach would show the film and we'd talk about it. And then you're in bed, there's bed check, they'll check, make sure you're sleeping, make sure there's no girls in your room, like all that stuff. And then Saturday, you wake up, and depending on the time of the game, dictates your schedule, but it's game day. Yeah. Fun week.
So it's like the amount of preparation is
the
thing that goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
You remember what you were feeling mentally, like the morning of the games at times?
Oh yeah, I used to get nervous for sure.
Did you get sick at all, or you were just like?
Not really. My brother used to throw up before games. I remember
really?
that.
He was a quarterback, right?
Quarterback, yeah. It was a quarterback. He used to puke. I would be nervous. I was always kind of, I would say I was sometimes like a mental case before the games. I was a guy that like wouldn't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Different kinds of people the day of the game. Some are just like their normal self, right? Which I always think that was weird.
Yeah.
Some guys are like the loud, like rah, like I'm about to go kill somebody, like fired up. I was like headphones in, like don't talk to me. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm locked in.
Yeah.
That was me. But once especially when I was at UMass and I was really playing well, our head coach, Mark Whipple, like he knew that I needed to get like loosened up early in the game. So he would make sure that I would get a pass very early in the first drive of every game we had the ball. Like there was a play in there that, you can never like guarantee I got the ball, but it was like, if all goes right, Adam's getting the ball in this play.
Yeah.
Once I caught that first pass, I was good.
Once Hackenberg hits you
exactly.
over the middle for a touchdown.
On the first drive, that second play of the game. Yeah.
What kind of, here's an interesting question maybe. What kind of teammate do you think you are? How would you describe yourself as a teammate?
Great question. I would say, I think that people that were around me would say, and like some self-awareness on my part, I think when I was younger, I had a tendency to be selfish at times. And I think that is pretty, common for like big time recruits that come in. And I think I was very much thinking a lot about myself and how much I got the ball and if I was going to play enough, and which is, again, I think it's human nature. Like it's normal to want to get the ball. I think what I got better at later in my career, there's a theme here that I think I matured a lot between my Penn State time and my UMass time.
Yeah.
I think just going through that adversity that I went through, like makes you like matures you a little bit. Everyone's got to play until they get punched in the face. Like when you're kind of down on yourself, you got to figure out who you are. And I think I did that. And then as I got towards the end of my career, and now I think you have to have the ability to want great things for yourself. So like want great things for yourself while also not rooting against or being happy for other people if it happens for them. So, and what I mean by that is like, I think it's really hard it's hard to compartmentalize that when you're young. Cause like you feel like it's either like I get what I want or this other person gets what they want.
It's like a zero-sum game.
Exactly. And like the world is abundant and like there's a lot to go around. And as I got older, I got to like kind of mature around like I can, if I'm competing with someone, Mike Gesicki when I'm at Penn State, like, or even guys my freshman year, I remember competing with like Jesse James, who's been in the NFL for a long time, and being so worried about like how Jesse was performing because I knew I was competing with him. But as you mature, you realize that you mature people have the ability to say like, Jesse's my friend. I'm happy for him and what happened. I also want that to happen for myself, but it doesn't mean I can't be happy for my friend. Right.
Sure.
And then same with like anything else in life, as you are competing with anyone, like it's not an or game. It's a game of and, right? And how do you like, can you be happy for other people and still want more out of yourself and allow other people's success to really like motivate you?
Mm-hmm.
And the other part of that too is like when you're young is like, do you want what's best for the team or what's best for yourself? And like those aren't always equal. And I think as I got older, I got better at that. I think still I struggled with it. Like I wanted 12 catches and 3 touchdowns every game.
Yeah.
When I was playing, and there were times when we were winning a game and Coach Whipple, our head coach, wanted to run the ball out, and I was like, I need like throw the football. Why are we running the ball?
Yeah.
But as again, as I got older, I think I got better at that, and I think I'm much better at it now with not just realizing that the world is very, very abundant, and there's a lot of people that can win in this world, and someone else's win doesn't mean that you're not going to win yourself.
Sure. Dude, well said, man. Because I remember that
I was figuring out where I was going with that.
I remember because I remember a similar experience because in baseball. So I was telling you I played baseball at Seton Hall, and it's so easy to just be in your own bubble pretty much, and like you're 0 for 2, 0 for 3. It's like, all right, all you're thinking about is getting a hit for yourself the next at bat, so your batting average doesn't drop down.
Yeah.
Instead of kind of taking a step back and being like, all right, this, if I do well or whatever, this is for the team, like that kind of stuff. So I think about that a little bit these days because I was tough on myself playing just because it's good because you hold yourself to a high standard, but it's like you got to kind of take it easy.
I mean, the other
part
part
sometimes too. So.
The other part is like, do you have the ability to, if your team wins a big game and you played like crap, do you have the ability to be happy that your team won the game?
Yeah.
And that's hard. It's hard. And I think that honestly, the most competitive people probably aren't as happy as they would have been if they played well, but you have to still be a good teammate. Right. Yeah. You can't be in the locker room pouting around. I would say that all the time. Even when we didn't even got into this, when I spent my time coaching, when we were evaluating players and evaluating personalities, like I would want to see, how does he act after a game when he doesn't play well? Or when he didn't meet the expectation, when he didn't have the stats he wanted, and their team still won, or they lost. Like, what's his body language like? Is he a good teammate? Is he hanging his head down? Is he, complaining to the coaches? Like, what's he like? Again, that's tough when you're young.
It says more about a kid than anything, right? How he responds when he gets 0 catches versus because anybody, you were thrilled when you caught 10 passes for 150 yards and you win the game. That's a good segue into. There's so much there's so much
those
that
notes
I want.
Are pretty impressive.
Dude, these are notes.
Those are impressive.
We're
gonna hit all those topics.
Could stay on script. We'll be here till like 9:30 at night.
Off script, way better.
Yeah, exactly. But I heard I read a couple things about you as a coach and I guess the respect that you got really early on Arizona State staff and for being a good recruiter and for building relationships.
Yeah.
What would you attribute that to? Like, do you think you just had a knack for that early on, or I don't know, were you just super passionate about it, or was it kind of because you didn't have the success maybe on the field that you were like?
Yeah, we could go a lot of different angles.
I know.
I think that yes, you just hit it right there. I do think a large part of my work ethic and my drive and what I do now is because I didn't play in the NFL. And because I didn't have that success ultimately that a lot of other people had, like I never made any money playing football. I in a lot of accounts, a lot of regards, like I'm in a very small group of people you don't want to be in that were 5-star recruits, all Americans in college, and never played in the NFL. And I think that motivates me because a lot of my buddies did play in the NFL, and now like I'm on a mission and have that drive to have that kind of success because I know I can, number one, but two, to kind of like, and maybe this is the bad thing, to like kind of prove to maybe everyone else too that like, hey, I can reach this kind of success even though I didn't with my playing career. So I think that's part of it. When you refer to coaching, like I got in there and I worked my butt off. Like I was grinding. I think on the recruiting part of it, man, I learned very quickly. I'll never forget a big time college football coach told me before I got into coaching, said college football coaching is 80% talent acquisition and 20% talent development. You have to acquire talent. The best coaches are the best recruiters. And I realized that I just like looking around very early at Arizona State, I was like, man, the coaches that move up the fastest and get the most opportunities are the ones who recruit the best.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, if you are a great recruiter, and this sucks to say, you can be an elite recruiter and not know that much about football, not be a great coach, and you will advance in your career. If you are a bad recruiter but an elite football coach, you will never get promoted. You'll never get a job because you have to be able to acquire talent in college football. So I saw that. I was like, well, I'm young and don't have much experience coaching, but I know I can recruit. I'm 25. I can go get these guys to come to my school.
Dudes, yeah.
Relate to them. So I went all in on recruiting and really brought value in that area. And just I think the third part of it is I was really good. I think I've been good throughout my life of just kind of building relationships with people and being able to kind of walk into any room and be comfortable and and communicate with people. And James Franklin always says this really good line, and it stuck with me. He says, in life, you can be really demanding of people, especially if you're coaching them and things like that, if they simply know that you care about them.
Mhm.
And I try to do that with recruiting, and how do you show people you care? By communication, by consistency, by showing up. I tried to do that during my time in recruiting and coaching, was build relationships with everyone, no matter what walk of life they came from, anything, make sure that they knew I was there for them. And it ended up having success and getting guys to come play for us.
Yeah, man. Yeah. The consistency, right? That's one thing you said.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you about some of the maybe common themes or like attributes that you see because you're interviewing the biggest names in college football, from a coaching standpoint, even players.
That's good. Yeah.
Like, what are some of the common threads that you see amongst those guys?
Yeah. The most common things among the biggest coaches, I would say, man, like an extreme attention to detail, in that it all matters. Like everything matters. They're on top of everything. I remember just being around Coach Franklin at Penn State and just being shocked at the things he notices. Just like everything. The guy, nothing gets by.
You got an example?
I'm just talking like everything from like the font on the PowerPoint presentation to the way players are sitting and like in their seats, and not like in like a dictator type of way, but just like it all matters. Like this is. And if you really care about something and you want something to succeed, like you're going to pay attention to every single detail of that operation. And just like how well thought out. I mean, being around Dan Lanning at Oregon and just like that guy is thinking about every detail of his program every single day. Down to the color of the jerseys they're going to put on, down to what time they should start practice that day, down to his message in the meeting, to support staff, like everything matters to these guys because the differentiator in winning is so small, right? So every little thing matters. I would say another thing is the best coaches, and really the best leaders, they are just elite communicators. They can communicate a message and portray their thoughts in a way that most people can't. They're just can command a room and speak and get people to buy into what they're saying.
Yeah.
Almost like, I think if you think about it, like a lot of big time coaches would make great politicians too, right? They could be a great politician.
Could have been you.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But yeah, I think that, man, there's a lot of common, and they're all different, but really those guys have some special leadership ability that I think, it takes. You also got to be a little crazy to get to that level, right? If you're a Power 5 college football coach, like you're a little psycho,
right? You have to,
You have to be.
Yeah. You see the Sabins and those guys. It's like, they're not normal.
Yeah,
but there's a reason that they get to that level of success. So.
No doubt. And I think too, like you almost have to have some kind of innate or unique belief that you're kind of destined for great things, to like be as ambitious as it takes to climb the ladder like that, and I think a lot of those coaches have that.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's it. That's awesome. So the elite communication, that's interesting. The one thing that about Lanning that was cool was that he was talking about, didn't he write, I think he wrote a note to like every school or every recruiting. And he was talking about handwritten notes too. Yeah. So just the attention to detail is.
The other thing that I've seen that I love about some of those coaches, and the Lanning example is great, like how he literally wrote a note to every coach in the country trying to get an opportunity. The great ones, man, just find a way, like will shit to happen. Like they just will it to happen. They just find a way, no matter what, to like make things happen. And it's like a trade. I always talk about like when we're hiring people for a college sports company or whatever, I'm always like, I want people to just like take initiative and go make things happen.
Just go
without being told. Like, just go. I'd rather tell you to like slow down than like have to wait and like get direction all the time. And so I think that's one part, is like they really will things to happen. But the second part is they believe that they can control the outcome. And I think that's a very unique trait among really successful people, is that they ultimately believe that if good things happen or if bad things happen, it's their fault.
Yeah.
And people that aren't as successful, I think I've seen this time and time again, find excuses or reasons why things did or did not happen for them. Even if a positive things happen, like find a reason that, oh, it happened because this happened before, or this person gave me the opportunity. Where like the people that are the most successful and achieve the most truly believe that for some reason that like they control the outcome and their work, and that they can will it to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's like one of the most unique traits, is just that inner confidence. And maybe it's not even like just that like true aware. And I think that is the truth. I do think people can will things to happen, and that ultimately, like, if it's good or bad, it's your fault. And when you believe that, it's kind of liberating, right? It's kind of freeing.
Take the ownership.
Like, I'm in
Yeah, man.
control,
You're
and
not the-
nothing's going to get in the way. And if it's bad, it's because I didn't do a good enough job.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not playing the victim.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Exactly. That's it. Not playing the victim card ever.
So for you then, and I want to get into, because we're already cruising here, but I want to get into kind of what you're doing with the media space, the college sports, but first, you wrote this article. So here's where my notes come in handy.
Oh, what's
You wrote this.
Let's go. You made me cry if you bring that up.
Thank you, football. And you just kind of were talking about like how it didn't go as planned. And you said what? You were like, career wasn't perfect. It's certainly not how I imagined it, but it's my reality.
Yeah.
Right. My journey is my story. I've learned to be proud of it. So like since then, since you've written that, what's going on? Like what have you done?
Man, I remember writing that letter. And I wrote that. I mean, it's like people are always like, I mean, there was no Chat GPT back then.
You didn't have anybody writing this.
I wrote that thing.
You didn't have Noah writing that for you?
I wrote that thing, man. I actually wrote that before I told everyone. I mean, it was pretty clear that I had to retire at that time. That there was like no path forward, but I hadn't like officially told my family like that I was going to do that. And I remember writing that, and just like the ending and like the realization of, and thinking about it, I remember obviously being very upset, but also thinking to myself, like, man, I have lived a dream that very few people get to live. I think I put that in there. Like, I got to do a lot of cool things and have really cool opportunities. And that while that journey wasn't what I thought it was going to be, that I feel like I can be pretty proud of it, and the time at UMass helped me a lot, like being a two-time All-American there. Like when I left Penn State, I wasn't very proud of my football career, like I was like, I was a 5-star recruit and didn't pan out, but leaving UMass, leaving UMass allowed me to kind of, man, like I was in some ways exactly where people thought I'd be. I was a two-time All-American, not just at UMass, not Penn State, but allowed me to be proud of that. And when I wrote that, it was emotional, but I meant it. Like it's I'm proud of that journey and that time. But yeah, I mean, the other thing I said in there, I think, was that like I'm excited. Like while that chapter closes, and I'm excited, I'm proud of that chapter. Like I'm excited to write the rest of the book and like see what's next. And yeah, a lot has. I forget what your question was, but
rest of the book, I don't know what it was either.
You brought up my letter, and it got
sorry, we could have read through the whole thing, but
what was your
the rest of the book? Again? I forget. The rest of the book is being written though, and you're doing. I mean, you're doing like crazy stuff right now, just with social media and like not it's Instagram, TikTok. You're hitting people from all angles.
Oh, we're all over it.
Yeah, you're all over it.
Yeah,
but it's with the purpose. Like there's a reason why you're doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
So what are you doing now?
I mean, I would say. I mean, you mentioned the content, so I'll start there.
Yeah.
When I stopped coaching, I really felt like there was an opportunity to create content on social media and build an audience. And it was right when kind of like TikTok was popping off. And, remember the days you could post a video on TikTok and they got 1 million views, like no matter what. It was like the viral TikTok. It's just different now, right? You got to have good content.
You got the crazy videos up in your feed.
So I went all in on that and built a following around it, which it's been great. I think of every opportunity I've had, I've said this before, comes back to content. I really think that content first approach, and which is why what you're doing is so great. Like having this podcast stuff is being able to have the attention online of people, no matter how big or small. to quote Gary Vee, like we're all just day trading attention, right? Like how do you get attention online from people? And it's through content. And then everything I've done since then has come from content. I co-founded the college sports company, which formerly known as Mercury. People have heard me talk about it before. We rebranded a college sports co. And like, we've never been in a better spot with that company. I mean, we just closed a funding round, which is super exciting, with some great investors and people like Kevin Love and Shadowline, which is Tom Brady's media company, and joined the round. And we just signed Louisville as a new school we're working with. Just got a commitment today from a major SEC school. So like we're excited about where that's going, and it's really trying to become the premier media production company in college sports. That's really changing the game of NIL. So that's great. And even meeting my co-founder there, Porter Grieve, is CEO of the company. I met him through my content. Like he saw my content, and someone introduced us, and that was that. And then like for me, like broadcasting, I signed with CBS for this football season, comes back to my videos and content, but I would have never gotten the TV opportunity if it wasn't for that. So it's kind of it's a cool, I feel like what I have going right now, I always call it kind of like the ecosystem or a flywheel of, college sports co, my content, my broadcasting. Great thing is it kind of all plays into each other. And yeah, it's been a fun journey. I mean, there's a lot going on every day. I mean, you've met some of the guys on my team that have certainly Noah, who you met. And I have a couple guys that work kind of full time on the operation of what we're building. And I'm on a mission, man. It's been fun.
You're pushing, man. What do you, so this might seem like a layup question a little bit, but like in terms of, you were just saying all this stuff that you have going on, like how do you manage all of it? Like do you focus on one aspect at a time and then move on to the next thing? I mean, I'm sure you're always,
it's
you gotta always
great
be
question.
going, right?
I do think I'm good at like bouncing between different things. I can
like multitasking, or
I know. I think like maybe multitasking.
Okay.
My girlfriend always tells me that I have like a crazy ability to like compartmentalize things. Like something really bad can happen, and in the moment I'll be like really upset, and I can just like switch my brain somehow and like put it in the back, and then probably not a great trait.
But like it could be good and bad.
Yeah, but like bounce between different. In business, it helps because you can bounce between like I'm in one conversation and can like completely shift my mind to the next one. I mean, it takes some kind of structure and time management. There's some things I'm not good at. I do think that the awareness of just like, I like to do a lot of different things. I like having kind of my hands in a lot of different stuff.
I've heard you say that.
Yeah. Like it's so the awareness of just like, I want to do that. And I'm sure like people say to me all the time, man, if you just focus on broadcasting, like you'd probably be like Troy Aikman. Or then if you just focused on if you just focus on this other thing, like that could be it. But I'm like, I like doing a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And if I like it, you just have to have the awareness to know that like maybe one of them won't work out.
Yeah.
But I'd rather do 5 things and like have fun doing it.
Yeah, pursue.
And it's going pretty well. I mean, like, and one of them may fail. I don't know, because I got too much going on. But I'd rather do what I want to do than just focus on one thing and not be as happy.
What do you think you have to get better at?
Wow.
Hitting you with the hard hitting questions.
Get better at. There's a lot. I'm not struggling because I don't have anything. I'm struggling because I got to figure out what I want to say here.
So I ask you that because that's kind of where my head is too. Like I feel like I always want to be doing a bunch of different things. Like I was telling you, like coaching. I have a job, a full-time job, a fiance. I'm really interested in doing this stuff and talking to you guys, and I have a hard time being like, all right, like how do I flip the switch from one thing to another? And like sometimes it just becomes a lot, and then I feel like it's like 25%. That's what I say. It's like 20% in this bucket, 20% in that, versus kind of going all in. But I'll let you answer that.
I think I need to get better at being more direct in my communication as a leader, and with all the different projects and people that I have, whether either working for me or with me on a lot of different things. I think sometimes I can be a little bit indirect, thinking that I'm being nice, but because maybe I don't want to say exactly what I'm thinking, or maybe instead of telling someone no, I'll just ghost them, right? Like I think I'm certainly have have done that before.
We got the
many times.
podcast on the books.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, we got it eventually. And I think that also, with our employees at College Sports Co, our employees that work on my team personally, I think instead of having tough conversations, sometimes I will avoid them or just not have them. And then what happens is you build up and you kind of not necessarily fire someone, but like you have a conversation. You're like, man, you haven't been, I don't like how this is going, or you're not doing well. And it's like, but the last 3 months, you haven't said a word to me about it, right? Like you told me I was doing great.
Yeah.
And it comes out of the blue, and it's like you think in the moment, or the excuse you tell yourself is like, I'm protecting them. I don't need to be mean to them. But like, if you don't have that candor with them, it builds resentment from your team because they think they can't trust what you're saying.
Yeah.
It looks like, even though I feel like one of my skills is being a good communicator, but then like in that instance, I'm being a shitty communicator, right? I'm not telling people I'm not being a good leader. So I think that's one area I like, just being more direct in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Is something I can work on.
Yeah. There's different forms of being a good communicator, right?
For
it's
sure.
Like you're a really good speaker, really good public speaker, and I'm just based on what you're saying, it's like, yeah, maybe some of those smaller conversations with your team that fall through the cracks where you're like, all right, this guy's doing fine. I don't really need to. So it sounds like what you're saying is almost over communicating. That's me too, dude. I hate picking up the phone and having a hard conversation. Yeah. It's sucks.
I avoided it all costs.
Yeah. But then I heard like Nicky Cash, the dude, right, who's hilarious. He's like, if there's what do you say? I'm gonna absolutely butcher this, but he was like, do the thing that takes 2 seconds. He's like, just do the hard thing.
Yeah.
And then it builds momentum almost. Like you'll go from that
really
thing
does.
and the next thing, and it's real. Like
really
that sounds
does.
like one of those life hack things, but it's actually the truth.
Like you do one task like early in the morning, it just kind of like builds it. Yeah.
It builds momentum. So
it's a good question. I made to think on that a little bit too. What else I need to get better at?
Yeah.
I'm sure the people around me would have a lot of answers.
You and me both. But all right, man. Well, I want to ask you a few more questions just out of time's sake. But like NIL.
Oh yeah.
Where's that going? And the question. Well, actually, I'll let you take that instead of asking you a 4-part question here.
Yeah.
But very broad.
I think. I mean, NIL has now been here for a couple of years. Just the ability for players to get paid on their name, image, and likeness, which I think is a good thing, right? I couldn't make any money when I played football.
Yeah.
I remember going to the bookstore and they were selling my jersey, and I was making no money. But the issue that NIL has had in college sports is that there's been no level playing field because NIL has now been used as basically pay-for-play inducements to get guys to transfer schools and commit to schools. That's fine. That's cool if there's some kind of structure and guideline where, just like the NFL has a salary cap and free agency, and when you can only talk to players, like right now in college football, it's the wild, wild west. Everyone's spending a different amount of money. Everyone's tampering with each other's player. Like there's no rules around it.
Yeah.
And the NCAA is not a good governing body, so they have no control. So, I mean, where this thing's going right now is that revenue sharing is coming to college sports where these colleges and universities, based on this lawsuit settlement with the NCAA, will now be paying their athletes directly. The cap is going to be like $22 million a year that schools are able to pay their athletes directly as part of the revenue sharing from the TV deals. Starts next year. Now NIL will still be a thing with, if every school's paying their players $22 million, well, football's a competitive game, right? What do you think Ohio State's going to try to do? Find a way to pay their players more than $22 million. Right. So they're going to have $22 million the school pays them, but their NIL collective or the donor, the boosters are still going to try to find an extra $10 million to go pay the players even more, because Ohio State wants to pay their players more than Michigan does. So that's still happening. A lot needs to change, and a lot needs to happen to kind of figure out what NIL looks like in the future here. It's getting better. I think with all the outside noise and distraction around NIL in college football, the reality is college football has never been better right now. I mean, it's like
it's awesome.
Expanded playoff, the new conference, like Big Ten what a great conference the Big Ten is, man. And but yeah, it's been a crazy. If you talk to college football coaches, they're like, don't even know what to do. Like my running back. I was talking to a group of 5 I was talking to a group of 5 college football coach. He was telling me that their backup running back mom called him and demanded $100,000 or some would transfer. And he was like, I was like, the door's out there. I'll see you on your way out.
We'll see you. Yeah, we'll see you later.
So it's just like the crazy stuff, man. Like these kids don't know what they're worth. They don't know what the market is. And what happens is then that running back who demanded $100,000 goes to hits the open market as a transfer. No one wants them.
Yeah.
You're a backup group of 5 running back. There aren't many schools in the country that'll take you as a transfer. Maybe then he may have to go down to like D1 to FCS or at D2. That's one of the issues is these kids and the parents are giving bad advice.
It's the craziest time, in college sports because it's no longer amateur sports. Really, it's becoming a professional. Yeah, I mean you're paying kids to play college sports,
which I do think players should be getting paid.
Yeah,
right. I mean,
it would have been nice for you to.
Would have been nice for me.
Jersey.
Well, there's a settlement now. I'm trying. There's a chance I get some money on this settlement.
Go. Yeah.
Now I got told. I actually just talked to a lawyer because the settlement back pays players from back then, and I think it ends at like 20. Or you had to play 2016 or later. So or 2016 to now 2024, and you could get back payment from this like $100 million settlement. And I barely make it, but those are my 2 years at UMass. So I just talked to a lawyer, and they're like, "Yeah, like we're gonna make a case, but you were playing at UMass, and like my Penn State years don't count." And I'm like, "Man, we got a case."
I think we can make this happen. Yeah, yeah. So then, with the college sports company, you're helping players build their brands, right? And like I was on the site, it looks like you're helping them build podcasts, like kind of just build their brand and benefit off it.
Yeah, basically. I mean, a little more granular would be that the college sports company is a production and media company predominantly in college sports. Sorry. And we build media networks at these schools, at Penn State, Oklahoma, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisville. We build these media networks and use the athletes as talent, use former athletes as talent, have them give them their own shows, produce all of it. And we've done that now for last year, which has been great. But what's changed is that we were building these networks just like any media company would, right? We do it ourselves. We own all the IP. We monetize on top of it through advertising, sponsorship, merchandise sales, just like a Barstool Sports or anyone else does.
Yeah.
And excuse me. But the thing that's changed is that as we built these and we were driving real revenue for our business, some of these NIL collectives were coming to us or these schools and said, "Can you build this media network for us, for our school or for our collective? Because we need a way to drive NIL money." So what we would do now at Louisville, we launched Floyd Street Media with Louisville's NIL collective, in partnership with the university, and we basically spin up this media network and we work out a deal with the collective, with the school, and most of the money we're driving through this network goes to the players in NIL. So it's this asset that allows the school and the collective to drive real revenue. Because what's happening in NIL is that NIL has been donor funded to this point, where Kentucky calls their big donor and says, "We need $1 million to pay our best basketball player." Okay, here's $1 million. Calls another donor. We need $500K to pay our quarterback. Here's $500K. Well, that's cool for like year 1 or year 2, but then you go back to the same donor in year 3 and you're like, "I need another $1 million for this transfer." He's like, "Well, I just gave you $1 million and you guys went 7-5 last year, right? Yeah. What's my money doing?" And no one, like, no matter how rich you are, you don't want to be giving money every year to pay a bunch of college kids. So what's happening is these schools are like, "Man, we got to find a way to drive real NIL revenue, not just donors, not just." So how do you do that? Our bet is that you need to build a media company, that these schools will become media companies themselves. And that's what we provide is we go to the school, we build a media network, we launch shows, podcasts, events, social media content, social media profiles, merchandise, all that stuff, just like Barstool or The Volume or any of these media companies would do, just like ESPN would. But we partner with the school and the collective, build it, get all the attention and the eyeballs of the fans. Once you have the attention, you monetize on top of it. And now we've proven that we can drive real NIL revenue in a way that no other company's been able to. And now for us, it's really like, how fast can we grow? Like we got a bunch of schools coming to us, but these things are hard to build, right?
Yeah,
so we're hiring on our team constantly trying to build.
Man. Yeah. So then is that the next phase of it? You guys are just building out the team and
building out the team, signing more schools. A lot of the work I do, honestly, is not selling, but like is pitching what we do to schools. I'm a little bit, we have a good team that manages kind of the networks that we have and the content. I'm involved at a high level from strategy and what kind of shows are we launching. But, we have Ben Kunkel, who's our head of content, one of my best friends, does a great job running our operations on all of our media networks. He's a great operator and great communicator. Does a phenomenal job of that, which opens me up, and really Porter Grieve, our CEO, to talk to these schools. I'll talk to multiple schools a day. I'm talking to the collectives, talking to the athletic directors, talking to the coaches. We're just at a call. I'm just going to call the Rutgers on the way over here, right? Trying to talk to them about it. So I spend a lot of my time pitching these schools and saying, hey, bring us in. We're your solution for this NIL problem you're facing.
Nice, man. Yeah. Well, seems like the sky's the limit with that, given the landscape. So so that's
hopefully it keeps
awesome.
growing, and we either run that company for like another 50 years and just like it's super successful, or we sell it to some massive company.
By then, who knows what college sports is even gonna be?
No doubt, we'll just be pro sports.
Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, good deal. So I want to ask you one more thing. Like the premise of why I started this is really athlete, right? You kind of were finding your footing afterwards. You coached politics, which we didn't really talk about that.
I don't talk about the politics. I said it's all on the limit. The one thing I learned in politics is I don't want to be in politics.
Right. Okay. That's probably a good thing.
I used to think I wanted to like run for governor and stuff.
Yeah. Vote for Breneman.
Yeah.
But so that kind of speaks to, right? You thought you were going to do one thing and then you figure it out. For me, that's why I wanted to start this, because like, all right, you play sports, you dedicate your whole life to that one thing. Luckily, at that time, you found something that you were so passionate about and just go. And then when it ends, I found a lot of my buddies, even military vets, which I mentioned to you, like have a tough time figuring out that next thing. So do you have any, I don't want to say advice, because I know that's different for every person, but like any thoughts to maybe current college athletes figuring out what they're going to do next, pretty much?
I think I think back to my time when I made that transition. You really have to find a way to battle and deal with adversity in your life. And I think that the sooner and the quicker you can find a way to battle through adversity, the better you are. One of the only guarantees in life is that bad things will happen at some point. Your career is going to end, and you're not going to be able to pick when it ends. Something bad is going to happen in your life. Work, family, like something that's not going to go your way. And life is all about how you respond to those moments. And in those moments is where you really find opportunity. I think that's like when those times come, you either catapult into the next phase of your life and kind of hit it full steam ahead, and it propels you into maybe what you were meant to be doing, or that next great phase, or it sets you back for years, right? And having the kind of, the mental fortitude and the ability to just like keep plowing through adversity is a really, really unique trait. So I would say, like, to I tell, athletes this all the time, something bad is going to happen. And if you have to find a way to battle through it. And the best way to do it, I found, is to have a positive attitude about everything. Be positive. Just be a positive human being, and good things happen. Control the controllable. Don't worry about things you can't control. You can't control the weather at your game. You can't control if you get hurt. Like, you can't control that stuff. So focus on what you can, which is your work ethic, how you treat people, the work you put in every single day. That's the stuff you can control. And then at the end of the day, it's on you, and believe that you're in control of how you dictate the result of any situation you're in. We talked about it earlier, but like, believe that you have the ability to push through that adversity. Don't become a victim to the adversity. Use the adversity as your kind of fuel to the next part of your life. I think when you view things that way, and almost view that transition of the adversity as kind of like, man, almost in like a sick way, like, man, like, I'm glad this happened. Like, I now get to propel to the next phase of my life. And this must have been what's meant for me. I think the other beautiful thing I always think about in my mind is that I think about, we didn't even talk about this. I got fired from coaching at Arizona State. I which happens in college football a lot, but like didn't think it was a good thing at the time. When that happened, I was like, man, like what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Oh, I got fired. And so many people were reaching out like, man, so sorry that happened. Terrible thing happened. Now I look back on that 3 years ago, and that was one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life because it propelled me into what I'm doing now. Media, content, the business stuff I'm doing. And I've never been in a better spot in my life.
Yeah.
And when you think back to it, you don't actually know if something is good or bad until you see how it impacts the rest of your life. In the moment, me getting fired felt like the worst thing of all time. Embarrassing, not good. What am I going to do next? Now it turns out that was like the best thing that happened to me.
Yeah.
So realize that in the moment, it could feel like it's really bad. You don't actually know. You won't know until you see how it impacts the rest of your life.
It's the Chinese farmer, right?
Yeah, the Chinese farmer.
Is that it?
Yeah.
It's so true.
I try to tell the story of the Chinese farmer sometimes, and I never get it right.
Just yeah.
But I think that's
yeah.
That's a great one. I mentioned the positive attitude thing too, man. Like Coach Franklin used to always talk about it at Penn State, almost to like where it was so corny. He'd be like, man, it's one of the core values, but he was always talk about positive attitude. And I would just always be like, and what's that really mean? And I learned it through that adversity of like, if you can be positive about everything, like be a person that is a positive human. Like no one likes being around the person who is constantly complaining, who is always bringing the energy down. Like be an energy giver and not an energy taker.
Yep.
If you can be a positive person, so many good things just happen.
100%, brother. I love it.
Yeah. You got me on my like soapbox over
Dude,
here.
I mean, you're just that's good stuff, man. It's really good. How's Penn State going to be this year?
College football playoff. I'm gonna go like 8 seed of the playoff.
8 seed?
Yeah.
And win?
I'm not saying national championship, but I'm saying I think we got what it takes. I love the two new coordinators, Tom Allen on defense and Andy Kotelnicki on offense. Drew Aller is back.
Yeah.
We got a chance. Now it's time. I mean, Penn State would have made the playoff if the playoff was expanded, like 5 of the last 6 years or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the exact number is, but it's time to win.
Get over the hump, baby.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No doubt.
Adam.
It's great, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Yeah, I'm glad. Like I said, we were joking with you earlier, but like
only took like 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months. Better late than never. So
Yeah.
I appreciate the time.
Yeah.
I was going to say, where can people find you? But you're pretty accessible. You're a pretty accessible dude on socials. But excited to see what you guys keep doing with College Sports Company.
Thanks, man.
What you're doing with broadcasting, everything this fall, and just continued success to you. So
this is great, man. You're great at the interview thing, and if I can help you at all, I can maybe get some more guests on here for you. We'll run it back next year.
All right, let's do it, brother.
Thanks, man.
Awesome, man. Cool.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it.
All right,
it was great.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man.